Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Iman. I hope you're doing well today. Now let's begin. Bismillah. Oftentimes in society nowadays, people, often women in particular, will be very judgmental, critical, and will have a mouthful of things to say regarding what makes a woman valuable, useful, or important as an individual. The woman part sort of doesn't exist when these so-called statements are being made. Unfortunately, all of these things that are being vocalized or hinted at are simply exposed projections from women who have been through certain challenges in which they did not rely on their higher power or their feminine intuition because they were too busy ignoring it. Therefore, end up losing all hope to then deciding to take the reins on their life instead. There is a saying in psychology that the psyche will always be heard, which means that whatever is determined in your life is bound to happen. Whether you ignore signs or not, a lesson will always arise from it. Your psyche knows best and is always trying to alert you about it. Usually, depending on your attitude and mindset on life, these experiences can range from mostly positive or negative. If you upkeep ignorance and fail to sit in silence with yourself from time to time and reflect upon your actions, thoughts about things and people, your needs and the emotions you feel and end up bottling up, only causes all of those stored up emotions to come out in louder ways until you cannot fight it anymore and finally have to give up and listen to what your body, mind, or soul is asking or needing from you to pay heed to. There are two parts, I believe, to why modern working women today are triggered by femininity in women. It's because it makes them feel unworthy and undeserving, and as it rises to the surface, they take someone else's behavior as a personal attack to their inner wounded feminine energy, and so lash out aggressively. It is a feeling of resentment, as if they wasted all of this time burnt out and overworked for nothing, when the next girl acting uptight or picky or lazy even has everything without intense exertion and uprooting her life and mental health. And somehow everything just falls into their laps as they glide through life. It is a hidden resentment that they are incapable, nay, in denial, and so unable to unleash this power of tapping within the self and discovering the limitless possibilities of life through energy and aura by simply being a feminine woman and accepting the wonders that follow. They can't have what feminine women have, or at least believe or think so. Feminine women tend to live life on easy lane. It takes much grace along with courage to be brave enough to entrusting your path and guidance from the all-seeing and picking up on those signs and honing in on them, rather than turning away from them or ignoring them completely. This is a common trigger for the people who have spent their lives sparing no effort to bang on doors that have been closed for them, rather than listening to their inner needs, their body, or their mental health, and observing the signs from the Lord Himself. They will override their precious energy by falling for the societal notion that a woman has to be perfect and live up to a certain standard, from which only that will she obtain validation for her life, and value of herself, only to soon discover that she will never be good enough, and that somehow everything is her fault at the end of the day. Businesses, advertisements, companies, even certain men cannot afford a woman to be in her feminine energy, even by an ounce, because now you hold all the cards and they have to appeal to you, instead of you chasing them and every opportunity to prove your worthiness. But I digress. Feminine women get spoiled all the time because they are open to receiving attention to their needs and accept support or help when they need it. This way of thinking does not diminish them or bring feelings of powerlessness because they understand that being treated well and special is their birthright. They feel worthy enough to accept love and support from people they value in their lives. Because they value the relation, they value what the relation offers them or wants to bring them. Now they will too, vice versa, in their capacity, spoil the people in their lives as well, in a feminine manner. Modern women believe in the false pretense that In order to get ahead in life or to succeed, one must turn into a man by taking over all of his responsibilities or by doing all that he does in order to feel important, strong, and independent in society. Who came along and convinced a woman she wasn't all these things already? That she, in fact, had to shift from her biological DNA and conform and bend to society's unattainable standards that were put in place for no one's benefit but only their own. Now back to what I was saying earlier. Yearning for this God-given power and neglecting their own, they live life through harsher and unfair conditions. Women who lack in their feminine energy or try to diminish it work 10 times as hard as a man to achieve the same result. And this ironically doesn't work in their favor, simply because they are rejecting their very nature and biology and the intention they were put here for. Feminine women have the power of receiving, yet modern women do too, but relinquish it. They, the feminine women, flow through life and everything works for the best because of the amount of trust they have put in the highest power. They believe they deserve the best because they are simply from the most marvelous and extraordinary creations of the Almighty. This is the value He granted them personally. The lens a feminine woman lives through is coded in her feminine energy, gratitude, and her graceful boundaries, which allow her to be protected, follow her happiness, and find joy in the littlest things. There is more gratitude and presence in her life, and as a result of such, whatever she has or desires increases. This mindset is highly coveted not only in life, but in Islam as well. Allah Himself states in the Quran that if you are grateful, we will surely increase you. Chapter 14, verse 7. Real feminine energy seamlessly surrenders itself into the state of absolute trust in the unknown through gratitude, and so positivity and happiness are shoo-in, a direct effect to your life. Since stress is a choice and fear is nothing but false evidence appearing real, whatever you will focus on will expand, and this is what the feminine woman understands. The ego. Now the second setback. The newly developed female ego. The unwillingness to submit and just trust. Whether to trust God's plan or your man's will or / decision, as he also comes in the form of a protector, so there needs to be some sort of power there in order to do that successfully. Of course, there is no comparison between the two, but the main concept being highlighted here is the mere fact of trusting and letting go. However, belief in your Lord is eternal and limitless, and can in any and every shape or form be trusted. By trusting the unseen, the divine knowledge of Allah, letting go of control of your circumstances, you are open to receiving the endless and limitless possibilities that only He is capable of providing, rather than you having to run rampant in order to achieve a certain thing you deem the impossible. To Him is smaller than minuscule, and if by His will alone can drop into your lap within less than a millisecond. Women who try to do everything themselves and wait for the praise to boost and fill their ego are simply putting a limit in their heads to the limitless. They believe in Allah, yet they do not believe in His capabilities and eagerness to grant. Hence continue to stress over things out of their control, work twice as hard, and innately believe that anything to be achieved in this life requires hustling, doing the most, and never resting and competing till they've reached their boiling point. This mindset, or hustle culture, is what manifests into a difficult and hard life for women by failing to look within and trust their intrinsic intuition to guide them. Now, in the recent years of the obscured Viewpoint, which is a direct result of witnessing the collapse of femininity in society today, are the women who believe that any sort of acceptance or help or support from a man is demeaning, and the women who do not agree with this notion are harshly rebuked or ridiculed. It is because the modern women are likely to feel less than because they are unaware of their feminine value, or are insecure about power and the desire for it, or it may simply serve as a threat to their independence. This is because they are raised to believe that asking help from anyone is the biggest insult to your ego. This is a highly flawed conception, as historically and biologically, women are not as ego-driven as men are. Men tend to have egos, and women tend to their vanity. This is our hardwiring, and it shouldn't be rebuffed, but rather tweaked and improved over time. Women will forever care for how they look, and men will forever care for whatever brought them pride. Yet these things shan't define us. The issue with females developing an ego highly corrodes their femininity because she is unable to be vulnerable and let her guard down. A woman wasn't built to live and endure life the same way a man does, and so if the roles were reversed, havoc would wreak. Picture it, 2024. Unfortunately, the modern woman has been fully convinced that going against her natural womanhood and her femininity will lead to her demise and failure in her life. So, to succeed, she takes on the notion that she must develop a strong masculine persona in order to achieve her life's goals, or to get what she wants. Ironically, the opposite is inevitably bound to happen. You see, by going against what nature, evolution, biology, and what God, Allah Himself, intended, is nothing but a recipe for disaster. And it is foolish to think we know better and expect our new and twisted way to work against the reality. This is why we're seeing all these women remaining in toxic relationships, not realizing their worth or value because they're busy clocking in and carrying burdens not assigned for them. And if not yet in a relationship, then not being able to find a suitable partner that respects and values them and their time. And so they set out for the search for their joy in little tangible things which are classified as only secondary, as its dopamine fizzles out quite quickly. Be it a job promotion, a fun party, a trip to somewhere, or a delectable dessert. Although these things are not as little as they are, but replacing them with a loving family to call your own doesn't hold a candle to anything else in the world truthfully. I mean, men in this case who can afford all of these frivolous things can do so, but for how long until they feel empty and alone? Men, as humans too, desire the willingness for loving relationships and a home to call their own, for them to provide and protect, and for us to receive and nurture it through our intrinsic energy. So as a female, doing the chase, climbing the corporate ladder, and prioritizing you and no one else can over time become corrosive to your femininity, intuition, and mental health, because you are unable to put someone else's needs above your own. As humans, we came to serve someone or something, and we do every day, whether we believe it or not, as everyone has a master. With humans, we just get to choose who or what it is. A career, a family, friends, latest trends, wealth, our God, or our ego. It's safe to say that only choosing to follow your ego's desires and wants and having your way all 24/7 can lead you down an empty, depressive, and hollow path in life. The second part are the harsh working conditions of career climbing, which are not catered to the feminine energy or the female herself. As obvious as it may be, this leads modern women to select what is more dear to them, and it will scarcely ever be their feminine energy and self-worth. Because in order to be successful in a once very male-dominated environment, the workforce, they are forced to go against their natural instincts and obey the strict rules and discipline of the workforce, and not only that, but constantly compete to prove themselves to be the best candidates in an already such a competitive environment. This causes them to become used to the hyper-focused, overly analytical work environment. They begin to think too logically about simple things or start thinking too critically. By stressing about the future or ruminating about the past of how things should have or shouldn't have been, keeps them small, stuck and restrained from their natural power and allowing it to flow through. As a result of this, the new modern woman has developed an ego stronger than a natural man's, because not only were they intuitively and emotionally more inclined and gifted in this department than a man was, but now apparently can go out and do the work men have been doing since the beginning of time. By getting the extra pat on the back by doing what men have been doing really ought to put some feathers in their cap, turning them into a competitive, driven, and an assertive individual at work, as deserved indeed, yet accept the quick decrees and failure in their own nature and being. The feminine nature had to go instinct in order to get the job, the high salary, the highest praise, whatever it may be. The workforce is extremely competitive, and the feminine energy is the complete opposite of that. It is on a whole other level. When you come home, you cannot just slip into an overly feminine role, as that is a whole energy shift. Femininity is a lifestyle, a mindset, and a way of being, and it can't be turned on and off like a light switch. And even if you can manage to do so, then there's some serious disadvantage on your end. So when you've developed and reveled in this state, and it's providing temporary happiness you think is enough, it then becomes more and more difficult to let go and trust in a plan you can't see, and have faith in adversity or people or in circumstances, when you believe you are in power and in charge of everything. Now, to keep in mind, I speak about particular jobs that require masculine energy and related traits, such as the following: engineers, pilots, military soldiers, submarine people, lawyers, construction workers, computer tech people, and some other very obvious ones that women were neither built for or needed for, and neither are they the best suitable candidate for. However, on the flip side, don't get it twisted that women should never ever work au contraire, because we need to support each other in a male-dominated world. Of course, in our own style and will, within our own boundaries, which serves as a protective picket fence, and we select whomever we allow in, or in other words, to be clearer, not men. Now, the jobs that we definitely need women at an alarming rate now more than ever are from the following: teachers, professors, female doctors, tailors, hairdressers, makeup artists, police officers for females, female therapists, nutritionists, nurses, wet nurses, female muftis and scholars, fashion designers, influencers, experienced in something like a talent, targeted to women, an author, a poet, or literally any type of business online, and no, not the funny business. Yet, of course, above all, nothing trumps the job of being a mother. And that concludes this video. I hope you learned some new things and enjoyed this topic. Hopefully it benefited you and you can apply it to your own life. If you're interested in more videos related to these topics, you have the right to subscribe, but only if you get the vibe or just curious and want to learn. Anyway, this has been nice, and I thank you for tuning in. See you in the next sequence. Until then, peace and blessings, and toodles for now. Salam alaikum.